A lot of us have difficulty squatting. It's a complex pattern that requires the entire body to work. So let's talk about a few things you can do to improve your squat pattern if it's limited. And at the end, I'm going to show you how to teach the squat from the ground up. So squatting is one of the most fundamental things we do, but most people confuse the squat pattern in squatting with loaded squats and putting a lot of weight on our back in the weight room. Well, if you think about squatting, really what it is, it's simply lowering your center of gravity down so that you can do something. Originally, that's what we did. We either gonna go down and get something, pick something up, do something with our hands, light a fire, roast a marshmallow, go to the bathroom. So that's the squat pattern. Raise your heels up, do whatever it is, because your brain's trying to get your center of gravity down. We overcomplicate it sometimes in exercise, throwing our arms over our head, squatting down, which is how we screen you. And we do that for a particular purpose. We put your arms over your head, your feet narrow, to find out where your limitations may be. But the squat pattern, turn your feet out comfortably, you lower your center of gravity, hands out front. Loading your squat pattern, putting weight in your back, well, that's a whole different thing, okay? You may not want to go as low. You want to make sure your back stays in a good position. So let's talk about a few things you can do to improve your squat pattern if it's limited. So the first thing we always want to do is get you down and start from the ground up. We didn't learn to squat from standing to squatting. We learned to squat on the ground. So let's take advantage of that. So let's go back and let's just do some quadruped rocking. And I want to get my spine moving by simply doing an arch. Breathe in when you go down. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Then you're going to notice I'm going to load my toes up. I want to load those toes up to actually work on ankle mobility, work on toe mobility. And I'm just going to rock myself back. And I'm going to lean forward. And as I breathe, I'm going to breathe out as I go back into flexion. And you see, I'm pretty much in a squat pattern. This is an overhead squat. Lean forward and go back. Opening up those hips, really pushing back in those toes, letting those arms go forward. And really stretching my entire body out. Really low level squat patterning. Now, where do we go from here? I'm trying to keep that idea of sinking the breath. Now I'm gonna go right into a different postural position. Every time we go from a floor-based activity to more standing, or in this position, stacked, it's more complex. Our neurological system, our center of gravity is changing, which makes it harder. So now I'm in a symmetrical base of support, which is our squat. So if I want to warm up for a squat pattern, if I want to warm up for my squat, if I'm loading squatting, if I got some difficulties in squatting, then this would be a good idea. Start with that quadruped, go right to a stacked position. And here, I'm going to widen my base of support, and I'm simply going to rotate. I'm going to get to a point where I'm limited, and I'm going to breathe in, and I'm going to exhale and go a little further. I inhale, exhale, go a little further. Inhale, exhale, go a little further. And that's opening up. Again, more mobility, which is really what I'm working on here for the squat pattern. Now I'm going to go the opposite direction. Breathe in, exhale, rotate. I get to a limited point. I breathe in. And you notice, I'm not breathing in up here. I'm not chest breathing. I'm diaphragmatic breathing. Opening up that belly. Exhale. Go a little further. Now, actually, when I rotate to the right, I'm getting a little bit more glute activation on the left side. So it's really working mobility, but anytime we start changing our postural patterns, anytime we start moving, it's mobility and stability that we're working on. Now, the next thing I could do, I could add a weight, and I could use a weight, or I could put my arms above my head. We're gonna do this without using any equipment. Arms above my head, breathe in, exhale, and rotate. Now I'm getting the upper body a little bit more involved, because we know the squat pattern, if you do it correctly, requires upper body mobility, hip mobility, knee mobility, ankle mobility everywhere, but also underlying stabilization as well. So same concept here. I got my arms above my head. Putting the arms above the head changes your center of gravity, puts a lot more of the fascial lines on stretch. It forces you to create better core engagement, but I'm going to do this in a tall kneeling position before I go into standing because it's less complex. Tall and half kneeling are just a little bit lower level of complexity when it relates to movement. And if we think about how we learn to move, we started on the ground, moved our way up, we were in crawling patterns, we went up into stacked positions, and we pulled ourselves up into standing. So I'm gonna rotate around, breathe in, breathe out, go a little further. And do this a few times. Get yourself loosened up. If you've got a little bit more limitation to the right versus the left, go to that side a few more breath cycles. Don't think sets and reps, think breath cycles. Do a few more breaths to the more limited. I'm much more limited going to the right than I am going to the left. So I'm gonna do a few more going to the right. And mainly it's this hip right here that's limiting that. Now that creates a little bit of awareness as well when you're going through these things. So I know by simply rotating this way to the right, I got a little bit of limitation. And I wanna know that, create that awareness so I know I need to open that side up a little bit more when I'm working on my squat pattern. From here, where do we go? We go right to standing. And right to standing, we're gonna start putting all this together, but we're still gonna teach the squat from the ground up. So what do? I know I've got a problem with squatting. That's why we're doing this. If we didn't have a problem with squatting, I wouldn't be doing this. I may be doing something else. So I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a heel lift here as I go through this next routine or next movement. So I'm gonna raise my heels up. Now you notice I use this band. Now I use this band because it gives me a heel lift, but the reason I like this band is it compresses. So the more reps I go through, the more it compresses and automatically makes this activity a little bit harder. And I'm gonna use my AirX pads right here. And you can use anything. I've used a basketball when I'm working with some athletes, soccer ball, anything. I'm gonna do a toe touch and work it into a squat pattern, training the squat from the ground up. So I'm gonna reach up, I'm gonna exhale, and I'm gonna press. And just enough to dent or engage, because as soon as I press, that engages my core. And what you want to do is anytime you start moving your hips, what the heel lift is going to do is it's going to force me to hinge my hips because I'm pushing myself forward. I'm giving myself an anterior weight shift. And if I raise my heels up, it forces me to sit back. That's why it makes the squat easier, because it creates a little bit more of a situation where I can use my hips more efficiently. As soon as I press into this, it engages the core, which helps stabilize the pelvis, allows the hips to open up. Now I can descend into the squat a little bit better. So now I'm in a squat pattern, a little bit of heel lift. I keep as much pressure on this as possible. I'm not gonna have a lot at the bottom. And then I'm gonna raise myself back up and come back up. This is what we call a toe touch squat. Go down, breathe out, exhale, and I'm gonna keep that pressure, breathe in, raise up, and go ahead and stretch yourself out. Again, warming up that squat pattern is what we're doing. Now I'm gonna go down, exhale, get in that squat position. Now from here, the last thing I could do is get the upper body involved. So now I feel pretty good in this position. Raise your arms up. Anytime you put your arms out front, that's a counterbalance, so that'll make it a little bit easier as well. Is I'm gonna keep pressure here, raise my arm up, and actually add a little bit of rotation. And you notice this elbow can kick that hip out. I'm gonna get to a point of limitation, breathe in, exhale, go a little further, breathe in, exhale, go a little further, and then switch it up. Breathe in, exhale, rotate, breathe in, exhale, rotate around, press down, and go ahead and stand back up. Now that's training the squat from the ground up, working different postural positions. So give it a try if you got a little bit of a squat pattern problem, or even before you go in and load your squat. So if you like this little routine I did with a squat, check out a video that I did a few weeks ago on working the squat and the shoulder together.